Greetings, everyone. Steve, Paracords of Kindness. How you doing today? Hopefully your weaving's been happy. Okay, what I have for you today is, I'm not even sure what it is. I've given it a name because I can't find it anywhere. And I've posted a few of them, and nobody else seems to know what it's called. So I've created my own name. It's a Solomon's Flickering Flame. It's not a hard weave. Choose the right color so it looks really well. But I'll show you the progression of how I've done this. Some examples. They're all kind of basically the same, slightly different here and there. But I'll show you ultimately what I've come up with. That's what we're going to work on today. But here's one of the first ones I did. This is steel gray, and I did the accent in the two color, Imperial Red and Fox Orange. Well, notice how the accent color comes wrapping around from the side so you can see it. Right? Well, I decided, I bet you I can do that slightly different, which I did. I did this one first. And I did it on an independent core because you can see, that's one of the reasons I changed that part. So you could see those core strands. Now, I know you can't see it very well on this one, but because it's an independent or standalone or self-contained core, you can see those core strands. But this one's Anthracite, Black, Imperial Red, and Fox Orange. Right? Now, the way I did this one is slightly different than the way I did this one. They're the same colors, but it's put together, it's woven slightly different. And in the end, I think it looks better, but ultimately, it makes the stitching easier, right? Right? Same colors, it's just slightly different. If you look, you might be able to see the difference in them. Look at the stitching on this one and the stitching on this one. Slightly different. But either way, that's the one we're going to do today. It's this one right here. This weave, but it's going to be in these colors right here. This is the one we're going to do today. Acid purple, smoke gray, teal, or dark turquoise, depending on where you buy it from. They're the same color. I've got both colors bought from two different places. They're the same. And that's rose pink. Like I say, this was not a hard one once you get going. But it could be, the setup is a little, but once you get it, it's no problem. But that's the one we're going to do today. So, if you want to see how I make a stitched Solomon's Flickering Flame with all the tips and the tricks that I'm known for, then stick around, because we'll get right to it, folks. Okay, weavers, I'm set up. Let's see. Shameless plug. I guess I gotta start like that. Modified bone leaves. I'll leave a link to the tutorial for this. Cards, description below. 3-color Cobra belly. Cards, description below. Oh, and you know, what is this? Galaxy blue, burgundy, and gold. And I put it on a brass buckle to kind of, bring out that gold. This one is, my signature colors, gold, maroon, and olive drab. Okay, now with that said, normally, this is where I would give credit for the bracelet, but I don't really know. I mean, I'll get to the story in a second. I've made a few of these slightly, each one's been slightly different. I've been trying to find the best way to do this and the best way to stitch it. But I posted some on the social medias, and I've told people, I don't know what this is called. I'm sure somebody's done it, and it's got a name, and nobody has, I've looked, don't get me wrong, I have looked myself, and nobody's, pointed me in the right direction. So as far as I know, this thing does not have a name. Okay, now with that said, this one come about, I saw something on Instagram. I look at Instagram and come up with ideas, just like we all do. We see stuff on social medias, different social media platforms, and we get inspired, whether it be the color combos they used or the weaves they've done or whatever. Well, I seen somebody do one like this, and I thought, that looks good. It was in black and red, and they had done like a keychain, key fob on a, what do you call it, an HK clip? and it was in black and red. And those are some of my favorite colors together. And it really caught my eye, and I was like, And I looked at it, and I sat down and I reversed engineered it, and I did it. And I thought to myself, well, did he do it on a 2-string core or a 4-string core? And I commented, and I asked him, I said, because I've never seen it before, I said, is this your design? I said, does it have a name? And, you know, he responded, we back and forth, and I said, did you do it on a 2-string core or 4-string core? I told him, I said, I did a little practice one on a 4-string core. And he told me, he said, I've done it on a 2 and a 4. And he said, I'm sure somebody's done it. Nobody's got a name for it. Or he said, I'm sure somebody's done it and it's probably got a name. He said, but I was just messing around. He said, I saw another man's post on his Instagram account, and that's what got me thinking, and this is what I ended up with. Okay, so the gentleman that posted the keychain in black and red, I put his link below. I don't know how you would pronounce this. It's Paramak Weaver, Paramakweaver, Paramak Weaver. And he said that he had seen a post by Thomas Perringer. I know many of us probably know who he is. And the weave that it came from, I guess, is the bush scorpion. And he said it was called, you know, he told me the name of it, and I went and looked, and I found it on Facebook, in one of the Facebook groups, the bush scorpion, and I looked at it. I'm like, okay, I see where you got your inspiration. Completely different weave, but I see where you got the inspiration. The little accent down the middle was similar to what Mr. Perringer had done. But let's see, I'll give you this little tidbit of detail. Thomas Perringer posted those of April the 22nd of last year, of 2022. So it's been a while. So if you go looking for it, you know, you can either do a search and maybe you'll come across it, or, you know, if you're going to scroll back that far, you're going to be scrolling a while. But, like I say, I'll leave a link to Paramak or Paramak Weaver in the description, and Thomas Perringer, both of their Instagram account. So, you know, I got to kind of throw them in. I don't want to, you know, say this is entirely my weave. I'm sure somebody's done something like this, but I've even changed it from what Paramak Weaver has done. I've changed it slightly. Now, I'm going to stitch this one. Now, this video, I'm going to simply show you how to do the weave, and it's pretty simple. If you know how to do the basic Solomon bar or Cobra bar, that's all it is with an accent cord. But I'm going to do this because of the way the accent is. I'll show you. Here's the first one I did. And it's a 4-string cord. And I did the accent color. I spliced the cord together at the halfway point, which is up here. That way I could get one color down one side and one color down the other, right? And I was like, I was like, I bet you I can do that instead of having the cord, the accent color coming from around where you can see it right here on either side. I said, I bet you I could do it slightly different. And here's one I did. And this one, there's a very subtle difference in between this one and the next one I'm going to show you. But I found that the other one, it looks better. To me, anyway, into making it and stitching it and all that, it just seems to flow a lot faster. But here's this one, and I did it on an independent core. And instead of having that accent piece wrap around from the edge, what it actually does is it creates a gap in that Solomon where you can see the core strand. Well, anytime you can see a core strand, there's your key to go, maybe I need to put it on an independent core or a standalone core or a self-contained core. I just call it an independent core. That way you got the core strands one color. In this case, it's anthracite, dark gray, and then the Cobra is in black, right? But anytime you see the core strands like that, think to yourself, hey, do it on an independent core. That way I can have another color in there. And you choose your colors right, hopefully I've chosen wisely today with my colors. If nothing else, you'll be able to see it on camera, I think. But when you set them core strands, independent core, it gives you that option of adding that other color. Now, you don't necessarily have to do it that way. If you don't want to do it that way, you could just set up your 4-core strand and go with it normal. But I'm doing it as an independent core strand. Now, with all that said, okay, that's the credit, I guess. I'm gonna, like I told everybody, I made, here's the, like I said, here's this one, right? It's black, anthracite, Imperial Red, and fox orange. And, you know, it kind of looks like flames. Well, I did another one slightly different than this one. Just the slight mechanics are different. The overs and the unders, if you will. And I thought it looked a little bit better. Yeah, most people go, I don't see the difference. Well, there is a difference. When you putting it together and having to stitch it in between the two ways I've done it, yeah, this one was easier. But I got to look at that, and the reason I chose these colors is because the way this red piece goes, it made me think of flames. And I thought, I'll just, if nothing else, nobody can corrects me and says, hey, this one actually has a name. If nobody does, we're going to call this thing Solomon's Flickering Flame. Makes sense? And hence why I did it in the red and the orange. And I put the gray in the background to be like the smoke. And the black is simply just a neutral color to keep it, you know, on the dark side, if you will. Right? But that's why I did it that way, because it, you know, it's supposed to look like flames. But anyway, alright, so we'll get to it. I'm going to show you how to do this. Okay, I've done all the ones so far on a 15 millimeter or a 5/8 inch buckle. Right? I'm going to do this one today on a 20 millimeter or a 3/4 inch buckle. I figured you could put it on either one, and that, you know, the proportion of the width of the bracelet to the width of the buckle, it wouldn't matter. Neither one of them is going to be oversized, so, you know, choice is yours. Okay, so with that said, like I say, it's a 4-strand cord. It's an independent cord, the way I've done it. Your accent and the Cobra, I can't talk, I'm sorry. The Cobra weave, all those are evenly set up, right? Okay, now, for those who don't know how to do an independent cord, I'll make this brief. There's a playlist in the description below. It says, what is it? Core strand setup. You can go find it. It's how to set up, I think it's a 4-strand core, independent, something like that. Independent is the way I have them labeled on that playlist, so you can find them. But all it is find the center of your cord, cow hitch it here, run it down, do your double cow hitch at the bottom, and then come back up. And me, I use these little stopper knots. Well, on this one, instead of having the cords, what would be the working ends, sticking out on the sides, I tied these knots so that they point toward the back, going toward the center. Like the one on this side is facing downward that direction, and the one on this side is facing downward going that way. Why? Because that's where they're going to end up anyway. When I finish weaving the bracelet, these will get back woven into the back of the bracelet. That way you don't have those little nubs sticking out, wrapping around, or whatever. This way, they're already hidden. Makes sense? But, like I say, when I do one like this, I leave enough here that in the end, when I do go to, yeah, that's not going to go on that one. I'll have to fix that one. It's probably not going to go on that one either. Either way, it'll make sense. When I get done, I leave enough of this cord. That way, when I put my fit or stitching needle on there and I fold it back over itself to back weave it into there, I got enough room to fold it over. Because if that cord is too short, you can't fold it over and get that needle down inside where you need it to be. That's why it's so long, right? That's just the nature of it is. That's a little bit longer than it should, you know, probably should be, but that's okay. Okay, now, let's see. What I normally do, like I say, I got a little clip. You can use whatever. I'll take it just to get it out of the way while I'm weaving, and I'll just put it up here. Hang on, let me get it up here right. I just put it up here and kind of clip it to this top buckle. That way, you know, it's out of the way. If I can get it to go up there like I want it to. That way it's up there and it's out of the way for the most part. And that's not, those little twigs, nubs, whatever, aren't in the way. Okay, now, to actually set this thing up, like I've said in some of my videos, you have people talk about how'd you start it. You always hear them say that. How did you start that? I need to know how to start the bracelet. I get it, no problem. But actually starting it or setting it up, a lot of people don't ever stop and think about it, but there's two parts to that. You have your core set up. That's running your cord and getting it all right. Then you have the next step, cord orientation, meaning where you put your accent cords through and then where ultimately you have them in order to actually begin the weave. Make sense? So, with that said, I'm going to show you how I do this. Independent core. This, the one right here, this is acid purple. It's labeled as teal or dark turquoise, depending on where you buy it. I'm going to tell you, I bought teal from one supplier and dark turquoise from another. They're both polyester and they're the exact same color. So, you know, whatever. I guess it depends on where you buy it as to what you want to call it. But that's going to be the red. This teal is going to be the red. Okay? Now the Cobra itself is going to be this light gray called smoke gray. Okay? So, just so we know, and we're going to orientate this, what we're going to do is we're going to take this teal piece and I'm going to stick it here. Let me zoom in so you can see what I'm doing. Like I said, once I get started, this one's not really that hard of a weave. 4-strand core. We're going to take that piece of teal and we're going to go right down through the middle of everything. Right? And all we're going to do is find the halfway point. Right? So take the other end of your cord, pulling it even, and that gives you a halfway point right there. Right? And just push it up like that. That's all you got to do. Now, for the Solomon, what we're going to do, for the Solomon setup, you're going to do the same thing. You're going to take the end of the cord you're going to use for Solomon and you're going to go around the back side. Right? Notice I'm going over this piece of teal, just kind of get it out of the way. But we're going under the 4 main core strands, right? And all you're going to do is the same thing. Just find the halfway point of it. I'm going to do it like this. Just take the 2 ends of it, kind of pull them, and that'll give you your halfway point. Okay, now right here. In order to do this and end up with the way I have it in that picture, and to have it look like I did, because like I say, these two, that red and black one and that other red and black one, they may look the same, but they're slightly different. And I found that one of them personally looks better, but ultimately it was easier to do the stitching on. Okay, so pay attention right here, because this, how you start this off is going to determine what the rest of it looks like, and ultimately whether you're going to, the stitching is going to be the easy way or kind of a tougher way. So I'm going to do it so it's the easier way. Right? Okay, so what we're going to do, we got our halfway point. We're going to take the right. The right side is going to be our lead cord on the Cobra. You're going to go across the 4 core strands. Right? The other one, just like any Cobra, you're going to come across the top here, and then we're going to take it and go around the back through right there. Forming your first Solomon. Now that primary cord, when I say that, the lead cord, the primary cord, that's the one that's going to go across the top. It always goes across the top. It changes sides every time, but it's always the one that goes across the top. Right? So we get it like that, and we push it up. We kind of tighten it up. Now, just me, the way I am, I'm going to make sure they're still even. Because, you know, I talked and all that. Yeah, they're even enough. That'll work. You get to talking and moving and all that, sometimes you lose your center and, you know, it messes up. So, okay, now, this is how we're going to do this. Okay, what we're going to do, this one that's coming out the top, and you got one coming out the back. Okay, what you're going to do is we're going to take this one that's coming out the back, and on this side, we're going to come up to that first slot right there. We're going to just bring it up. Don't pull it too tight because you'll get it off center too. Right? Now, what you're going to do is you're going to go, just bring it over this direction. And then this one, you're going to take it down through the middle slot. Pull the excess through. Now, when you get here, kind of push it up. Pull that one back, give it a little snug, make sure you got everything good. Okay, now, we're going to go back to the Solomon. Take our lead cord, the one that's going across the top. Bring it across the top of the 4 cord strands. Over here, under all 4 of the cord strands. You notice this one's out of the way. This is not involved. Under the 4 cord strands, and then up through this loop on this side, just pull your slack through. And then cinch it up. Push it up, tighten it up. The way I'm doing, I'm grabbing it with my fingers on or my hands right here. I'm pinching it right here, pushing, and that's getting it tight. Okay, now what we're going to do, I'm going to show you how you can remember this. Because when I started doing this, I was getting confused, and then I realized, okay, here's how you remember it. This piece right here, the one that's coming out, it's on the top, right? This repetition is facing that direction. It's coming out this direction, right? Whatever direction that top cord's facing, that's the side you go to with the one coming out the back. It'll make sense in a minute. So, we take that one on the back side, the accent cord that's coming out the back of the bracelet. And we go to this first slot from this direction. We bring it up. Pull your slack through. I just kind of bring it over this way. Now, we take this one and we're going to run it down through the center. And you can go ahead and bring it over that direction. Push it up. Pull it tight. That's it. We see it starting to form now. We see these 2 cords coming out right here, right? Or Solomon. and this teal. Bring that, the one that's over the Solomon is going to have to come up, over, right there. Don't try to do it up under there. You'll get it messed up. Bring that primary, the lead cord of the Solomon is now on this side. Bring it over the top right there, okay? And just like before, because it's the lead cord, it's going to go across the 4 cord strands. Pull your slack across, and the secondary of the Cobra, it's going to go over here, right here with my thumb, and it's going to go around the back side. Remember, keep this out of the way, and through this loop right here. I know this might be in the way, but just solve it. Loose cinch, push it up. A little bit of a tighter cinch. All right. Now, what did I say? Whichever, this one is coming out the top, whichever side it's pointing to, that's the side you're going to do with this. Okay? Solomon, this one, move them out of the way. And this one that's coming out the back, we're going to go the first slot from this direction. Hence, like I say, this one is pointing that way, so we're going to come from that direction, that first slot. We're going to bring it up, and then you're going to bring it across this way. Now, this one is going to just go over the top of all that and down through the middle slot. All right. Push it up. We'll tighten it up in a second. Now, the lead Cobra, that's the one that just went across the top. It's going to go across the top again. Across the top of those 4 cord strings. Bring it across. Your secondary Cobra, it's going to go over here, underneath those 4 cord strands, and up through this loop. Up through this loop right here. Pull your slack out. All right. You notice neither of these are involved in that. Just so you know, don't get confused. Neither of those are involved in that. Loose cinch. Kind of push it up a little bit. Now, we'll tighten all this teal up. Reach back here. Kind of pull that one in the back. This one, pull it kind of to the side. Pushing it up. Now remember, we are going to stitch this, so we don't want to crank down too much on this tension, but we do want it to be neat, clean, and tight. All right, we'll tighten all that up, and there we go. Now, we're just doing it again. That accent color is pointing that direction. So, that's the side that the one on the back, we're going to come through that first slot on that direction. Why? Because this one's pointing that way. We'll just bring it up. Bring it over this way. Take this accent and go right down through the middle slot. You can go ahead and bring it over. Alright. We got that? Now, our lead Cobra strand again. Remember, it's going above this one. The Cobra strand goes above this. Don't get them confused. Just get it out of the way. And you're going to do another Cobra. Lead Cobra strand goes across the 4 cord strands. Secondary Cobra goes over here, behind all the cord strands, and then up through that loop with a loose cinch. Push it up, loose cinch. Now we'll reach back here, pull the one in the back, kind of give it a snug. Pull this one, give it a little tighten down. There we go. Now, again, back to where we started. This one right here. It's the one coming out the top is pointing that direction. So that's the side. From that side, we go through that first slot. Pull it up and bring it across. Then take this one, bring it over there and down through the middle slot out that direction. Now, back to the solid lead strand. The one that went across this top, it's always going to go across the top, is that lead strand. Again, we're going to go across the top of the 4 core strands. Secondary goes over here, around behind all 4 of the core strands and up through this loop. Pulling it through. And notice that neither of these are involved in any of that. Low cinch, kind of push it up. Reach back there and snug that one down. Snug this one down. There you go. And that's it. That's all there is to it. You see it starting to form. It's not that hard once you kind of get the rhythm of the back and the forth. You know, when I first did this, it confused me. But the way I orientated these chords up here, you can do it the other way or however, but it's going to end up causing it to look slightly different. You may not be able to tell, but I made them both ways on purpose so I could look at it and go, oh, and I noticed all the differences. I said, okay, now let's stitch it. And I started stitching it, and I realized, yeah, the one that's done this way was easier to stitch. And I thought it looked better also, but the bonus was it seemed to be easier to stitch. So, there we go. That's how you weave it. It's not that hard. And I know it's got some chords and the independent core strand and all that, but if you just take it slow, you should be able to do it. Now, I'm going to back out, do like I always do. Like I tell people, I can show you the mechanics. Going over here, under there, pull it like this, or whatever. But like I've always said on my channel, a lot of times, most of the time, when I watch a video, I will listen and watch the mechanics. Listen to them say, over here, under there, do this, do that. But what I do is I watch how they're weaving, what they're doing with their hands. So, you might see something, just the way they grab it. You know, little techniques that you might pick up. So, that's why I do this. I'm going to back out, and I'm going to just start weaving and let you see my hands. I haven't made many of these, so, you know, bear with me on this. Let me go forward one more. Okay. Let's see. Coming out this way, so we're going to get this one. We're going to come up, go this way. The other accent is going to go down through the middle of the core strands, and I'm going to bring it out that way. I'm going to do my Solomon. Low cinch, push everything up, kind of tighten it up a little bit, pull that one, bam. Okay, now it's coming out this way. We're gonna bring this one up, we're gonna bring it up through that slot from that side, bring it across, bring this one over, go down through the middle and bring it across. All right, lead strand across the 4, underneath, around the back. Low cinch, kind of push it up, get a little low cinch. That's it. Pointing this way. So we're going to come up this way from the first one from that side. Bring it through. Go that direction. Bring this one down and go through that middle slot. Come out that way. Lead string goes across the 4. watching all that? We see that? We're starting to take form, take shape. Starting to see the pattern real good now. But I'll zoom in. I'll let you see what I'm going for. Now, that's that. That's that. And I'm gonna show you. I think I may not. I may change my mind. But what I'm gonna stitch it in is fuchsia. That's not showing up very well on that camera. You can't quite see the color distinction. Here, maybe if I zoom in a little bit more, you'll be able to see it. As close as I can get. Yeah, it doesn't look, you can see the color good here, but when putting it over here on top, it kind of gets lost on that gray, the color. Camera doesn't know what to do with it. But it's gonna be a bright looking one anyhow. But that's what my initial guess was, to stitch it in that color. I have lavender. Lavender might look good, but I think it might. Hang on. The lavender, if I can get to it over here. Now you can tell the difference between the lavender and that acid purple, but if I put it up here like this, it might get lost in that purple. That's why I chose the fuchsia, because there's enough of a contrast between this and the rest of those colors that it will be seen. I don't know though, that does look pretty good, because it does go with that purple. I don't know, we'll see. I'll probably contemplate over that. I'm not sure yet. But anyway, that's how we do it. When I get down to the end, finishing this one off is not that hard, but it does have all this up here, and you may not be familiar with it, but I'll show you how to do it. Finishing one of these, if you've watched my video, I don't know if it's in the tip and trick. I think it's in the tip and trick playlist. How to end a Cobra bar and not have the ends showing, so they're around the back. That's kind of the basis of how I do a lot of my, because we all learn the Solomon off the get-go. That's probably one of the first ones we learn. And how this one right here is pointing upward. I don't like having that burn mark on the display side, on the top, the front, the display side of the bracelet. So I always get them around to the non-display side, the back, right? That way the cut and burn marks you don't see. And that's kind of the way I do that with a Solomon. I've just adapted it to all these other bracelets. But that's how, if you've seen that video and you use that technique, that's how you do on this one. But you have these two extra ones. So, like I say, if you're not familiar, stick around. When I get done weaving, I'll come back and I'll show you. It's not really hard at all how to finish this one up. And the stitching's not that hard either. But stick around and I'll be right back. Okay, weavers, I've got it weaved out to the end, except for the last little step. Like I said, I'll come back, show you how I finish this off. It's not very hard. I'll show you how to back weave these, and I'll start the stitch and show you how I do that, and we'll go from there. But let's see, I'll show you. Let's zoom in so you can see what I've got going on here, and I'll explain to you. This one's not hard at all. What you do is, we've done this part, and then I did the Solomon as far down as I can go, right? Okay, all we're going to do, like many of my videos, like I say, we're going to get all of these cords to the back or the non-display side of the bracelet. Okay. And all we're going to do is, you know how you've seen the way I do a Solomon? That's what I'm going to do with these two cords, right? I'll show you. Not hard. But this one, it's already coming out the back. But this one right here coming out the top, all we're going to do with it is just run it down between the two cord strands, right there between them two hitches in that hole right there. Just run it straight down through there. And it's going to maintain, you know, the consistency of the pattern all the way to the end. Right? That's it. Now these two, I'm going to take it off the jig, and so you can see this. Now, like I said, I don't know, I said this in a video a while back. Now, I put some tension on this thing, and it does bow. And I had a gentleman talking about, not my jig, and he wasn't talking to me, but I just seen this comment. He was talking about a certain brand of jigs. Those are no good because they bow when you try to tighten them up. Well, okay. If you know that, take that variable into the equation. That's the way I do. I know mine bows. I made mine specifically to bow. Right? This piece doesn't bend. I made this thick. One of my first jigs had a very thin piece, and it would bow. I don't want that to. But this, that's why I have multiple blocks here. You can't quite see that, but that's why I have multiple blocks, because it bows inward. This top piece does. But anyway, with all that said, like I always do, I'm going to take this off of here, and you see how much pressure. I didn't pull this one that tight, as tight as I pulled some of them, but watch. Between these two, the connection point, when I unclip it, you'll see this will pop back, and you'll see how much of a gap it is. See it move? Now you see, there's a gap in between that connection point. Yeah, it bows, but I've made it to do that, and I know it does that, and I take that in consideration when I'm setting everything up. Okay, so we'll get this off of here. We'll get the jig out of the way. And I'll show you how to finish this one off. Not hard. Not hard. It'll clip out of the way. Get the dust and debris off the desk. Okay. This is how we're going to do it. First off, what we're going to do, okay, if we look, I'll show you this. This is the technique I do on Cobra. Anything that's like a Cobra Solomon bar based bracelet, I'll do this. You've got two cords. You got this one, the primary one that went across the top. It's coming out, and it's already kind of angling toward the back side of the bracelet. No problem. We'll leave it like that. We'll work with that. But this one, see how it's coming out toward the front or the display side? And you'll see people, they'll cut and burn it right there. Nothing wrong with that. Go right ahead. But we want our stuff to look neat and clean. We don't want that. We don't want to see them burn marks on the front or the side. I try to get them all around the back. That way they're hidden and you don't see them, right? Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to just take that piece and wrap it around the side. Okay, now we're going to pull this thing tight when we get it around there, but that's all we're going to do, right? So basically, I'm going to just keep the two grays on their respective side. Flip it over. Now zoom in so you can see this close, and that'll make sense. This one's easy to. It pretty much every time I've done this one, they end the same way. So I'm not having to do any improvising. There we go, or guesswork. It's the same way you end it. You have this one coming through that we just ran through, and the other one's already back there, so that's good. And you have these two, right? Okay, so what we're going to do. This one right here is already coming out on the back side. That's good. So we'll leave it like it is. This one, what we're going to do is we're going to run it up under that piece of gray right there. And that piece of gray is going to loosen up because this is it. See? So you don't even need your needles for this. You just get it through there. And then this one, that cord itself, all we're going to do is take it around and run it back up under itself also. But do it over here on the other side of the two accent pieces, not right here. There's a reason I do this, okay? There's a method to my madness. When I get there, I'll show you. I'll tell you why. But put it over here like this, or not over here like this. No. Put it on this side of the accent cords, right? Okay. Now, what you're going to do is when you get right here, just take that piece and tighten it up. Now, I've got a set of pliers. Now, I'll do this now, but I'll do it again when I do my final cut and burn to make sure it's tight. But I'll show you this, right? These pliers, these are chain nose pliers, what they're called. Jeweler's pliers. They're conical shaped, they have no teeth on them. So if you slip off that cord, you're less likely to snag it. Now, it will pinch the end of the edge of the cord. It can snag, but, you know, I use these quite often. But grab a hold of that cord. Pull it. What I'll do is I'll pinch down on it and just kind of roll it. What it does is it tightens that piece up right there, that gray piece, because that's what it is. That's all it's doing, is tightening that up. Right? Then we follow the rest of it around right here and we take out the rest of that slag. Now it's not real tight now, but it will be. In the end, when I go to finish all this, it will be tight. But for now, just because of the way this one is, like I've mentioned, we're going to cut all this excess off so it's not in the way when we're stitching. But we want to leave a little bit there so it doesn't unweave itself by accident with us flipping and flopping while we're stitching, right? And the nature of the way this one's put together like this one, it has tendency to want to back itself out. So we're going to leave these a little bit longer. You know, I usually say an inch, inch and a half, or 2 inches. Yeah, make this one a little bit longer, right? About 2 inches. That way we got something to work with, because we're going to have to tighten that piece up again like we did in the end, and we're going to most likely have to pull it out to create that bigger loop that we just use the pliers on. So we got to have some cord there to be able to do that, right? That's another reason, right? But I'm going to show you this. Oops, sorry, get out of frame. The reason I said bring that piece around over here to this side of those two accents, okay, look, I'll show you. Move it out of the way. Let's just say, I'll show you, for example, if it's over here on this side where I said don't put it, what ends up happening is you have these three right here together, then you have this big gap, and then this other one, right? And when we go to cut and burn them, like I've said in the past, when I do a cut and burn, I try to get them all in the same place. That way, when I burn them, all of them melt into one lump, and they weld themselves to each other. That way, there's less chance of them over time with wear and tear ultimately coming unwoven from the bracelet. Makes sense? But with that, this big gap makes it hard to, when you're burning everything, to burn these three and this one and have them all joined together. Makes sense? Hence why I take this one and I put it over there on that side of the accents, and it kind of fills in that gap right there. Now I'm going to have to tighten all this back up in the end, but you see what I'm saying? Now you basically have your four cords right next to each other, laying flat side by side. And when we burn them, they'll all burn in one lump straight across that back side. Now, I know some people say, but that's so, it's the non-display side. It's going to be on your wrist. You do not see that. But, and like I said, they're all joined together. Sorry, they're all joined together, so that holds it that way. That's why I do it that way. I've seen people who like melt them, barely flatten it out, and they'll take a magic marker or something like that. That's great, but I've learned through experience that these things they can over time come undone, and if you attach them all to themselves and they burn, there's less likely that that's going to happen. That's why I do it. There is a method to my madness. Okay, but we got those in there, so we're going to cut these, like I say, about 2 inches or so. Right, now, these right here, even though these eventually are going to get cut off, I always burn the end of them. I don't shape them or anything like that. I just put the flame on, get them hot, bam. Bam. That way they don't fray and all that kind of stuff. That's it. Just let them cool like they are. Now this, I'm going to get my fids off of these. Put them over here in my little holder I got on my desk. Okay. Now, those should be cool enough to, they're not going to burn me or anything. Now, this one right here, all I'm going to do on this, let's get some of this stuff out of the way before we get all. All I'm going to do for this one, and I guess it really doesn't matter, I haven't found a preferential side, but I'm going to put them over here where there's more. Where there's more room. Up under, and we do 1 or 2 pieces of gray. Doesn't really matter. I'm going to do them up under both pieces of gray right there. Do this one. Do the ones on this side first. Just kind of. Okay. Just pull it through. Make sure it doesn't have a twist right there. As you pull it through, just kind of give it a snug down. And then, oops, sorry. Just kind of snug it down, and then right here, there's the other one. I have it on this side. Make sure I'm saying. You got this cord right here is coming from this side, so you keep it on that side, and this one is coming from this side of the bracelet, so we keep it on that side. So keep them on their respective sides, if you will. Okay. So I'm out of frame. I apologize. I try to center this up when I'm working. That way I'll know where I'm supposed to be, but it's just more comfortable for my hands to be up here. So I apologize. Like I say, I'm not a filmmaker. I don't have the best camera, best lighting, things like that. Get out of frame, can't stay in focus, all that stuff. But I don't claim to be like Steven Spielberg or, I don't know, who's another big famous director or somebody. I can't even think of any. I'm not one of them guys. I'm Paracords famous. I know how to make a paracord bracelet. I don't know how to make a movie. Seen thousands of movies. Don't know how to make them though. Hey, just melt that. Let it cool off for a second. Get her scissors out of the way. Okay. Now we're going. I chose a different color to stitch with. I think this one, it'll look good with these colors. Like it's kind of it's a softer color. It's more, because I mean, this is kind of a feminine, teal and a soft gray, and then the purple. These are feminine type colors. Maybe a woman will like this. So I'm gonna choose another one. The lavender and the fuchsia, feminine, softer type colors. But the one I chose, it has more of a contrast than all those. I think this is going to look good. Rose pink. You definitely can see that. And, like I say, normally you want your stitching to be a very contrasting color. Not always, though, but on a case like this where we got a bunch of different colors, we're not doing a monochromatic theme, meaning a whole bunch of different shades of blue or a whole bunch of different shades of gray or black and gray or green or reds or whatever. We want a color that's going to contrast. That way it'll give the pop we were looking for. Okay, but I see how to stitch. It's not hard once you get going. It can be kind of confusing at first, but it's not that hard. All I'm going to do is same place like I always do. Same place I anchored these cords up under them gray. That's why I'm going to anchor this. So I'm going to orientate. Now, display side, where I began weaving, flip it over. We're going to go up on them 2 pieces of gray. That's it. Pull it through, you know. Now press it down with your thumb so you don't accidentally pull it all the way through. When you get close to the end, kind of slow down. Okay, now, I'm going to make sure I do this right. Because you can do it in certain ways and it won't always look. But what we're going to do is ultimately we're going to go through the back side, right? We got that part. But we want to come out above this piece of gray and right in between these 2 core strands and right here where this teal piece is. So we want to come out right here in this area. Right? So we just got to figure out how to get through there. Now you can do this a couple of ways. I did this the other day on one and yeah, I think that's going to work. Is that going to work right? Or do I want to do it the other way? Let's do it like this. There's a reason I'm going to do it like this. I'm going to go up under this piece of teal first. Right? Hopefully this is going to work like I think it is. This is the way I did it, I think, on the last one. Now, just go through. Right along the edge of this piece of teal. Just follow it through because that's the other side of it right there. But you got to be careful though. Pull it through. Mindful of your twist. Okay, now when we get here, we're going to kind of go a little snug. Now, all we're going to do here, make sure I'm going to look at this right, because it kind of throws you off, especially if you try to start just a new stitch. You never done it before. You got these 2 little nubs like right there in the way, and you're like, where do I go? Just be patient. It'll work. Okay, now what we're going to do, I'll go ahead and give you the concept of what we're working with here. Okay, we got 4 strands. Try to picture in your mind's eye what's going on in this bracelet. Right? You got 4 strand cords, or 4 core strands. There we go. Got the 2 in the center, and then there's 2 on the edge. Now, for the most part, that one you can see running up and down there, that's the outer edge on this side, outer core strand, and the one you can see over here is the outer core strand on this side, right? You can kind of see the 2 inner to the 2 middle ones, but not so much, okay? But when we go through the bracelet, from the display side through to the non-display side, and also when we come back through, don't matter which direction we're going through, what we're going to do is we're going to, let me make sure I'm going to tell you this correctly, make sure I'm going to do it right, because this can't throw you off. Yes. What you're going to do is, let's look at the bracelet this way. You got 2 core strands over here on this side and 2 on this side. No matter, every time you go through, you're going to go through in between the 2 on this edge and then the 2 on this edge. You're not going to go through the middle of it. You're going to go through. Right? So when you look in there, I know you can't see that very well. You can see that outer one, but you can't see that inner one. It's down in there. But to you, when you make this, you can look right there and you can see that other core strand, okay? those two core strands right there that you can see, every time you stitch, you're going to come between those core strands. Whether you're on this side of the bracelet or on this side of the bracelet, you're going to come through the two core strands, right? Just remember that principle, and you'll get it, and you'll be okay. Now, actually doing it and getting it through there, yeah, it can be a little tricky. But once you do it a few times, you figure out how to get it through there. Okay. What we're going to do, if you look, I'm going to follow this outer edge. From where I'm at, I'm going to go over the top of that gray and just follow the edge of that piece of teal, and I'm going to go down right through here. But if you look, I don't know how well you can see this on the camera. Yeah, you can see right in between them two pieces of gray right there. That's that other piece of teal. Okay? We're going to have to go down kind of below that, but between them two core strands. But ultimately, what we're going to do is come out, and we're going to go over to the other side of the bracelet and come up through in this area, right? So, I'm going to look. You see where I went through at? I'll let you see this. If you see that piece of teal, where's my handy dandy laser paracord pointer? Let me get that light over here. Hopefully I won't block the camera with it. But you can see that piece of teal right down inside there. Right? We're going below it, in between those two purple core strands that are on this side, going down through there. And where we come out at, is if you look right here, you can see now. You won't be. I don't know. Maybe if I bend it back, you might be able to see. You can see them two core strands, because that piece of teal is going in between them two pieces. Those two core strands on this side, and we're coming out right there. Right? Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go up. Now we're going to have to move all this up out of the way so we can get to where we need to. But we're going to bring that needle all the way through, and we're going to run up right across here and go down through here in between the two core strands on this side, and we're going to come out on the other side of the bracelet. Okay, now all this we got it where we want it for now. We're just going to run it through, pull a slack through. Now that's the only one that's the only stitch that's going to run the full length of that piece of teal. The rest of them are only going to run from right here where this gray is. It's just going to go across that gray. I tried and tried and tried to figure out if I could get it to follow the complete edge of that piece of teal. It didn't look right. It didn't want to sit right. And I was like, So I tried it this way. Tried a few other ways, and I finally said, this is probably the easiest way. It just looks the best. We'll go with that. But like I say, now this one right here is kind of not the easiest thing to see. But if you take all this, your nubs, and kind of move them out of the way, where you're going to go through is right here. But remember, there's these two core strands, right? If you look, this piece of teal is going through in between those two core strands on that side. But we're going to go through up here. So, just look, imagine right up here, these two core strands. I can see them, but now the camera's not going to be able to see that. But you get in there, you can kind of feel, and we see where we come out at. It's pretty easy. I mean, it's kind of, you're like, huh? But to get it to actually go through there, it goes through pretty easy. You're not having to fight and dig around a bunch of knots. If you just picture in your head those core strands, and you're trying to go between the two core strands on whichever side of the bracelet you're currently on, you'll be okay. It'll go through there pretty easy. Just be careful that you don't poke through your other cord. Pull it through. Pull your slack out. Make sure you don't get this. I always, for the most part, there's a few exceptions, but this stitching right here, this piece of micro cord, I'm going to have it run up under here. Why? Because eventually I'm going to cut and burn these right on top of it. I don't want the micro cord running across the top where I'm gonna have the flame and stuff. Does that make sense? That's the general principle I use. Now, there's a few times where it hadn't worked out very well doing it that way, but we see how that is. It just kind of goes across with a little up. It angles up toward the top of the bracelet where we started weaving. Just kind of give it a little snug. We flip over on the other side. Now all we're going to do now is from where we are, we're going to go follow the edge of this piece of teal over that piece of gray and right back through those two core strands. See where I went through? And you see where I'm coming out. And just pull it through. And the fact that this teal, the fact that this teal is polyester, to me anyway, it makes it a little easier to stitch around that because it's a little tougher, and you're less likely, if you're careful, you're less likely to poke through that teal just because it's made out of polyester as opposed to nylon. Now, again, the same thing. On this side, now we're just going to go over here to this side. Right? We're going to just go right up between these two pieces of teal, and we're going to go down right through here and come out on the other side, in between those two core strands. I see, I can't quite see them here, but I know where they're at because I can see where that other piece of pink is coming through. So you just kind of follow down in a straight line, kind of get it through there. You do it just right, it'll go right through there. Right? Pull it slide through, mindful of your twist. Make sure you're staying underneath those nubs sticking out. Okay? And you just give it a little snug. That's it. That's all it is. It's pretty simple. This is a bracelet. Looks great. You choose the right colors, and this thing looks outstanding. That one right there looks amazing to me. I like those colors though. But that thing looks really good. This right here, I think looks pretty good too. But again, all we're gonna do, follow the edge of that piece of teal down over the top of that gray and right down through the bracelet through them core strands. Now, like I say, you got to remember what we did, because this piece of teal here is running up under there and it's going through that same spot, so we got to go below it. So you kind of want to angle it, not that much, but I'm just showing you, angle your needle down to get up under that other piece of teal that you can't. It's kind of hard to see, but it's down inside there. You're going to go up under it. And they're going to come out right there on the back. It's like I say, it's once you kind of in your mind's eye picture where you're going with this, and this one's pretty easy. And it goes pretty quick. Get there, give it a little snug. Flip it over. Coming out here, all we're doing is following it up. Like if you look, here's just something to keep you. You got a piece of gray below you and a piece of gray above you. You're going to stay in between those two pieces of gray. You're just going to move across to this other side and go through that other core strand and come out the front. Go through those other core strands on the other side. You see that? Okay? And we just get a zigzag back and forth all the way down. Now, okay, now I'm going to do a couple of these, and so you'll get to see what the pattern is going to kind of look like, or the colors, I should say. I'll say this. Like I always say, I pull my stuff as tight. Well, if I know I'm going to stitch it, I don't pull it so tight. Well, I've learned from this one, because it's a 4-string core, if you start trying to pull this Solomon real tight, what happens is those 2 core strands that are on that side, instead of them laying flat like this, you pull them Solomons together, those 2 core strands, they want to get up on top of each other. So that affects the stitching. When you go to stitch, you can't just go straight through. You got them over the top of each other, so instead of just going straight through the bracelet, you kind of got to come in at this crazy angle to get it to go through there. Right? Just something I've learned, pulling these things too tight or not tight or whatever. See, I mean, it goes through there pretty easy, because I didn't pull this one as tight as I normally would, and I've done this quite a few times trying to figure out the best way to do it. And I thought, you know what, this is probably the easiest way, because you can pretty much see, you know, you're not digging, trying to find where to do it or nothing like that. Some of these are, you know, I do are pretty challenging stitches, because you can't see down inside that knot, and that bracelet's so thick, you're having to, you know, sight unseen, grope in the darkness, trying to figure out where to go. This one, no, it's pretty easy. But that's something though. I'll say this. Here's the thing. Like I say, when you're doing this and you got to go up under that other piece, make sure you see where I'm coming out at, right? Make sure. Watch that piece of gray right there. Can you see it moving? It's because my needle is sticking the backside piece of gray. If you're not careful and you run it through there, you're going to poke all the way through that piece of gray. So just, you know, be careful. Do you a couple and realize, you see what I'm saying, where the tip is? If I got it too much at an angle, it's going to poke the backside of that gray. If you try to push it, it's going to go through it. You don't want to do that. But that's all this stitch is. It's pretty easy. Pretty easy. Bracelet's not a hard one to make. Like I say, if you choose the colors right, it'll look good. But there you go. That's what it's going to ultimately look like. Now, like always, I'm going to run this one out to the end. I'll show you how I finish it off. And we'll come back, we'll do a cut and burns, and I size this one on a 7-inch wrist, which is me, so we'll do our trial by fire to see if it fits. But stick around, Weavers. We'll come back, we'll have us a stitched Solomon's Flickering Flame. Okay, Weavers, we've almost got us a stitched Solomon's Flickering Flame on our hands. Be careful, it's hot. Okay, I got it stitched out to the end. We see how that pink stands out a little bit more. It contrasts it with all the other colors, so it's got a little pop to it. Okay, so what we're gonna do, I'm gonna show you. I did this one. We got this one and this one to do, right? Okay, and since we got all this stuff right here in the way, just like at the front, it can be a little tricky, but it's not bad. It's not bad. I'll show you. Right here, this next one we're going to do just like we've been doing. We're going to stay in between these 2 pieces of gray. We're going to go right up and we're going to go right down through there. Now down here at the end, like usually, it gets a little tight down here because you got so much stuff going on. But if you just get careful, I think I can get it through there. Yep, there it is. Right there. Pull it through. Okay. Now this one's going to be tricky because we got to come out amongst all this stuff on the back. So, so we're going to go down. Let's see, the way I've done this, let me make sure I'm going to do this right. we see how big of an angle. It's because I'm coming out down here below all that stuff, which is fine, right? Okay, now, considering all this stuff's in the way, let me look at it and see if how do I want to do this. Okay, this is what I'm gonna do. This is the way I'm gonna do this. Okay, I'm gonna run this. I'm gonna stay on the non-display side of the bracelet, but I'm gonna run it back up under this piece of gray. That way, I can get up under all this stuff. That's my intent anyway. So I'm gonna take that buckle and bend it kind of out of the way, and kind of come at it from an angle, and get it up under there. Right now, let's see, because it really doesn't matter how I get it through there. But just right over here between them two pieces of gray, like we were, we're just gonna go through. Can't quite see it. And like I said, sometimes, if you can't get it to go through, take your needle out, come around to where you want it to come out at. I kind of start the hole. If you can get your needle to go through there, you can kind of wallow it out a little bit. Makes sense. That way, now you kind of you opened it up a little bit, so you hopefully I can get it to go through there in the right place now. See? I'm gonna just pull it, and when I pull that pink, it's gonna disappear down up under all those stuff. That way when I do this cut and burn, it's gonna be on top of it all. It's gonna be buried under there. Okay, now this last piece, it's not wanting to. Let's see. Yeah, I'll just leave it like that. Now the last one, all you're going to do is just follow the edge of that piece of teal and go right down through the middle of the core strings, just like we did before. And it's going to get it back here on this back side. All right. And what I'm going to do is I'll show you. Let me get it through here and I'll show you what I'm going to do. All this gray, I'm going to come out at the very bottom, toward that bottom buckle. Right? As opposed to angling it and coming up like that. I'm going to do it this way. Right? Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to run over this one, but under this one. Right? I'll pull it through. And that's it. Oh, sorry, out of frame. See that? And I'm going to cut it, leaving a little tail. Now, just for, well, this is made for 7-inch wrist. I size it for 7-inch wrist. All the measurements are below for 7-inch wrist. And you see, I don't have very much left. So if you're going to make this for a larger wrist, you might want to cut some more. Of the micro, anyway. Okay, now, like always, I'm going to just force habit. Even though I'm about to cut it off, I'm going to. Okay, now what we're going to do, like always, have your smoothing tool at the ready. I use the end of this. Let that cool off. Okay, now we're going to flip it over and we're going to look at it. We're going to get everything straight so it'll look pretty. Make sure everything looks straight up there at the top. Going to pull our 2 pieces of purple and that piece of pink. Rose pink actually is what it is. Acid purple and rose pink. Alright, now, get a hold of them. And they're already, like I said before, if they're laying flat, kind of bend them up so they'll be sticking out. That way when you go to cut them, they're sticking up and you can burn them without getting on the bracelet. That's, yeah. Okay, now, and leave some hanging. Don't, you know, I know when I first started, I tended to cut them a little too close. Well, like I said, this is a non-display side, so we want something there to burn. Maybe got them a little too short, but that's okay. That's okay. I can make it work. I'm going to hold it up at an angle and I'm going to burn all three of them. The pink and those two purples all in one little. And take my smoothing tool and roll them all together. That way they'll join themselves together into one lump. And like I always say, after let it cool off for a second, run your finger up there. Make sure you don't have any little hard lumps, teeth, burrs, or anything like that that's going to poke you. And that side's finished. Now we're going to go to the bottom. I'm going to turn around and look at it. It looks good, I guess. Everything looks good. We're going to have to tighten it up, though. Like I said, this piece of gray that we dealt with back there. It comes across here, it goes through this loop, and then it comes back around. So I said, I'm going to have to tighten that up in the end. Yep, I'm going to tighten it up. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to reach up here, right here. I'm going to get my pair of pliers up under that piece. I'm going to do just the same thing I did before, like you saw me. I'm going to roll them. And it's going to pull this piece of gray tight. See how much slack I got out of it? Now, I'm going to lay it down flat. And what I'll do, the way I'll tend to do this, I'll take my fingers on either side of it and pinch it together as I'm pulling that tight. Okay, now we see we got all four of those pieces of 550 that are laying one right next to each other. We don't have that gap that I mentioned before, right? That's why I did that piece that way. And we're going to cut these. Now, I'm going to show you. Because this is so close to that edge right there, when we burn all this, smooth it. I will take it and smooth it from this side and roll it back. Push it back around the back of the bracelet. That's the way I'll do it. You want to leave you some. You see that? I left some meat on those. I'm going to do it again. Take it and roll it across. What it does is it melts all those cords together. So you can't, one's not going to come out. They all going to have to come out, but that's not going to happen. Well, I say it's not going to happen, but you know. Sometimes I'll take it. Because that's the sensitive part. Hence why we put the baby milk to see if it's too hot or hot, the temperature. Very sensitive part. That's normally where your buckle is. So if you got a little burr there, you test it out. Now that feels good. Alright, give me a second. My phone's over here dinging at me. Okay, silence that. Okay, we done. We got everything up, out of the way. And I'll let you look at it. like I said, we got. I use a 20mm buckle, 3/4 inch, right? And it doesn't look. It's not too wide for that bracelet, I don't think. Nah, it looks good on there. But we got acid purple, smoke gray, teal or dark turquoise, depending on where you buy it from, and rose pink. But that's like I said, I can't find a name for this, and no, I've asked, I've looked, I've asked, nobody knows, or you know what. So, like I said, I'm going with a Solomon's Flickering Flame. But this is a stitched Solomon's Flickering Flame. But there you go. Okay, now that's it. We're going to do a trial by fire. Since I did make this to fit a 7-inch wrist, this one's not too stiff because I didn't pull this one real tight because I knew I was going to stitch it. So I don't have to shape it too much. Now, we're going to see if I can get this thing on my wrist, see if it's going to fit. Oh yeah, that's a good fit right there. I can barely get the tip of my finger under there, and it's that's a perfect fit, really. Not too loose and not too tight. That'll work. But there you go. Give you a look at that. Looks pretty good. Looks pretty good. But that's how I do it. That's how I do a stitched Solomon's Flickering Flame. Appreciate it. Now with that, leave some comments below. Let me know any suggestions of tutorials you want me to do. I've had a request on something. I'm gonna have to. It's not the easiest weave to do. It looks easy. It's not the easiest. I'm gonna have to go back. I've done it. I've made quite a few, but I'm gonna have to go back and make me a few of them, practice it before I can put it on film, right? But I most likely will get around to that in the next coming week or so. But I appreciate you watching. Like I said, give us a like, give us a share, leave a comment below, all that good stuff. But like always, I'm going to end this one like I end them all. Keep it neat, keep it clean, keep it tight. Happy weaving, folks.